Welcome to Fibromyalgia Real Talk. My name is Helen Thompson and I have fibromyalgia. Thank you for joining me today. This is a new video series that I'm starting to bring you the knowledge and the information about what fibromyalgia really is and what the heck is going on in your body with fibromyalgia. I am doing this because everyone that I see online in the rooms, in the chat rooms, in the groups, everybody has the same questions all around the world. There's so many people being diagnosed with it. There's millions of us that have this illness, and the doctors are not paying attention. They don't believe it's real. They're not even really pushing for the research on this diagnosis. They're pushing us aside, trying to just write us prescriptions to get us out of the doctor's office, and that's not fair. So my point to these videos is I'm going to try to bring awareness to our illness. First of all, we need to understand our illness so that we can help others understand it, so that we can get the right people involved to get us the answers that we need. I want this to be educational for everybody, for your families, for our friends, for our bosses, for our coworkers, for even our doctors and our pharmacists, anybody who doesn't know that much about fibromyalgia. I'm going to try to bring it all to light so that everybody can have a better understanding of what we are dealing with. Let me just start by saying that fibromyalgia is real, and it doesn't have anything to do with your gender, with your race, with your age, with your weight, or with your diet. Fibromyalgia is not an autoimmune disease. They have already proven that in the research. It is a malfunction of our nervous system. I'm not going to really give you the definition of fibromyalgia that's out there right now because it's very vague and it's an old definition, and really they need to get a new up-to-date one that explains what's going on because it doesn't even explain it right. We all know how complicated fibromyalgia is. I just looked at a site the other day that said there's over 200 plus symptoms of fibromyalgia that we can have, and that list has grown from about 60 symptoms is what they had before. So it's very intricate, it runs through our whole system, and it's really hard to understand. We mimic a lot of other illnesses with fibromyalgia, but understand that just because we have the symptoms of those illnesses, we don't have that actual illness. You'll understand it all when I get into the nervous system in the next video and understand why we have these symptoms, but we don't actually have the illness. My goal is to try and sort it all out for you and have it make sense to you and everybody else around you so that people can be more helpful to us and more understanding. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I was actually diagnosed with fibromyalgia in my 30s. After doing all of the research and reading and everything that I've done, I realized that I've had fibromyalgia my whole life. When I started thinking about all of the symptoms and things, I look back on my life. I had so many things happening to me as I was growing up that my sisters and my brother did not have. And now it's all starting to make sense and come to light, finally. So in my 30s, when I got diagnosed, I had just become an RN, and my doctor told me that I was going to need to find a new career and a new job because I was not going to be able to do this job with fibromyalgia. So let me just say that I am here to tell you, do not let anybody tell you what you can and can't do with fibromyalgia, because I am now in my 50s and I am still a nurse and I am still going strong, and I am still able to do my passion, which is making people healthy, helping other people, and finding and resolving illnesses. You can do whatever you want to do with this illness. You just have to learn how to manage it correctly, and that's the whole premise for these videos, is to help you learn how to manage your body. I also want to share with you that I pulled myself out of a very dark and depressing place. It's hard when you first get diagnosed with fibromyalgia because your life as you knew it changes. You are no longer the same person, your body no longer functions the same way as it used to, and it can be really hard It's kind of like when you lose somebody to a death, or you go through a divorce, where you have had all of these things that you have planned on doing with your life, and now everything has changed, or everything has come to a halt, and your whole life you have to learn how to do things differently. It's really hard, and it can be depressing. So I just want you to know that there is hope, and you can turn your way of thinking around so that you can have the happy and productive life that you want to have with this illness. The one thing that really breaks my heart is seeing all of the fibromyalgia warriors out there being so down and so depressed about this illness, and feeling like there's no hope. Just because we don't have the awareness out there, we don't have a walk of life like the heart, the American, what is it called? I can't remember. Anyway, they have the heart walks, and they have the breast cancer walks, and they have, all the awareness and attention for all of those other illnesses and diseases. And we need to have that too, because our illness is just as prevalent as their illnesses and affect just as many people. As you learn more about this disease, you're going to have fewer bad days and a lot more good days. It's just a matter of finding the balance that your body needs in order to function. So I'm going to start with an overview of the research that has been done so far and kind of what it means to us. Let me just say also that everybody is different, and so what works for me may not be what works for you, and that's why my goal in these videos is to present all of the information. So even things that I have tried that haven't worked for me, I'm still going to share with you because it might work for you. So just know that I'm not going to hold back any information or be biased towards one treatment or another, or whatever's going on. So here we go with our history. This is so exciting to me because I knew fibromyalgia has been around a lot longer than anybody has even imagined. So our history starts in 1552, when a French doctor introduced the term rheumatism to explain muscle skeletal pain that was not from a specific injury. And then we jump 300 years to 1815. A Scottish surgeon he noticed that there was nodules on our connective tissues, and he was the first one to describe that we have tender points in our body, which became to be how they diagnose fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is from our tender points in our body. They called it fibrocystitis back then. A few decades later, a French doctor used the term neuralgia to describe what he thought was pain traveling from our tender points through our nervous system pathway. He is the one who started the theory that we have a hyperactive nervous system. In 1880, an American neurologist described widespread pain along with fatigue and psychological disturbance that was caused by stress. This is where, how they say that it's all in our heads sometimes. Well, it's because of the psychological piece that they think that we can cure it just by curing our depression, but that is not the case, and I will prove that to you. In the 1900s, they used the term fibritis and treated it with cocaine injections into the tender points. They also used cocaine as a topical analgesic pain cream for people to get relief from this process. In 1936, a paper was published in Britain that showed that fibromyalgia was not, it was more prevalent than they thought, because 60% of the insurance cases in the rheumatoid area were diagnosed with fibrocystis or fibromyalgia. 60%. So that's pretty huge, that most of the diagnoses in that area were from our illness. Also in this era, they figured out that there are deep pain pathways that are suggesting that our central nervous system is involved. They called it myofascial pain syndrome. after World War II, doctors could no longer ignore our diagnosis anymore because soldiers were coming home from the war and they were being diagnosed with the fibroitis. And basically they could not clinically find that there was any inflammation in their bodies causing this. And so they related it to stress and depression, and that's what they thought was causing it. But they called it psychogenic rheumatism. So we still have that rheumatism in there. In 1949, doctors could no longer ignore our condition because of this. And it was becoming more prevalent around the world, and millions of people were having the same symptoms. So how can you ignore an illness or say it isn't real when millions of people are having the same symptoms? In 1968, we finally got a list of symptoms to kind of describe what fibromyalgia is. This was the list they came out with. Generalized aching and stiffness, fatigue, headaches, colitis, which is an inflammation in your intestinal area, poor sleep, which we know we don't sleep. They actually listed on this list worriers, like we have something in common that all fibromyalgia people are somehow worriers. We have tender points on our physical exams and a mind-body connection. So that was the very first list to describe fibromyalgia. In 1981, they added a few more things to that list. What they added was we have subjective swelling in our bodies. We have paresthesia. We have IBS. We have tension and migraine headaches along with just the normal headaches. And they stated primary dysmenorrhea, which all of us females who have it know that our time of the month is really a lot more extreme. Our PMS symptoms are a lot worse with fibromyalgia. And I thought it was interesting that they added it to the list at that time. So where does this leave us now? As you can see, the progress on the research has been really slow, and they've gone down a lot of avenues to try to figure stuff out that have ended up in dead ends. So I'm just going to touch on a few of the things that have actually been helpful to us. So they've already determined that inflammation is not involved and we are not an autoimmune disease, like I said earlier. They have found that first-degree relatives of people with fibromyalgia are 8.5 more times likely to develop the disease, but they have not found a specific gene that relates to fibromyalgia. So right now it's just we have some kind of something that makes us susceptible to getting it in families, but it's not a genetic thing. Our pain processing is altered in our brains. We have decreased pain inhibition. What this means is that when you have a trauma like a broken arm, your body will create hormones and send these hormones out to decrease the pain messages so that you can tolerate and deal with the pain while you're trying to get help, so the pain doesn't completely absorb you with what's going on. This is pain inhibition. We don't have that in our bodies. We are missing that piece. Our body does not inhibit the pain. So when we have an acute kind of trauma, we feel the full intensity of that pain the whole time. It doesn't ever decrease. We don't ever, and it lasts longer. Like your broken arm, you might stop feeling the pain in a couple of weeks, after you get your cast on and they reset it, and then you don't really notice it anymore until it gets better. But with fibromyalgia people, when we have something like that, we can feel that pain for months because our body does not ever inhibit those pain signals, and our systems are hyperactive, so they're just constantly sending out those signals. It takes us longer to actually get rid of the pain and to get over those kind of illnesses. We also have changes in our opioid receptors, and the upregulation in our brains is not working very well. And what that means is we have receptors on our cells that when you have an injury, your body will create the hormones. The hormones are kind of like the key. The receptor is like the door. So the hormone hits the receptor lets it into the cell so that the message can get through. The problem is that with fibromyalgia patients, we don't make as many receptors as other people do. So we don't have as many doors for these keys to get into. So what happens when we take pain medications and things like that to try and help our pain, we can throw, it's like you can throw 60 balls at 3 holes. And the best scenario you're gonna get is you're gonna get 3 balls into 3 holes. The rest of them are just going to bounce off, they're just gonna float around, they're just gonna be going through your system and not doing any good at all. And this is why I say pain medication doesn't work for fibromyalgia, because it just floats around in our system and it gets metabolized out of our system and it's not really doing us much good. And you have to keep using more and more of it to try and get the relief from it, and it still doesn't last very long. So this is a major issue in our bodies with fibromyalgia. They've also done some really exciting testing with MRIs and brain neuroimaging studies. Basically what they have found is they have proved that we have increased neuroactivity in pain processing in our brains. And how they figured this out was they put a patient with fibromyalgia into the MRI machine. They showed them a picture of something happy, something that should make your pain processing not even activated at all. Something that would lighten your mood, make you feel good. And what they found was when they showed those pictures, our brains are still processing pain. So we are still feeling pain even when we are in a happy mood or in happy surroundings or doing something that we enjoy. And then they also found that when they showed pictures of something terrible or tragic, our pain processing even was worse. I mean, it was like way excited. So the bottom line of that study that they did is that we feel pain no matter what. When we're happy, when we're sad, when we're glad, it does not matter. We are still processing pain in our bodies. It showed also that we have a significant reduction in the gray matter of our brain, suggesting that we have some premature aging of our brain. And they discovered that the longer you have fibromyalgia, the more aging symptoms that you have shown. And the aging shows up in areas related to stress, in pain processing, and in cognitive functioning. So that's why we have our brain fog, and that's why I have to look at my notes sometimes, because I can't remember everything and I will get off track really easily, right? So what is gray matter? Gray matter houses most of the neuronal cells. It includes regions of the brain involved in muscle control, sensory perception, such as seeing and hearing and memory and emotions and speech and decision making and self-control. People that have severe psychiatric disorders and schizophrenia actually have a decreased amount of gray matter in their brain, and that's what causes their problems and issues. We also have changes in the white matter in our brain. What does the white matter do? The white matter houses our myelin sheath. The myelin sheath is the protective covering around our nerves. I'm going to go into that more in the next video, so I'm not going to talk a lot about it now, what that means, but we're going to talk a lot about the myelin sheath. And just one example I can give you right now is patients that have MS. MS is an autoimmune disease where the body's immune system is attacking their myelin sheath. And people with MS, multiple sclerosis, actually have an autoimmune disease that attacks the myelin sheath. This is why we so closely have symptoms to MS, that ours don't become permanent, theirs can become permanent because it's their immune system that is attacking their body. Ours is just, our myelin sheath is either really thin or non-existent, where theirs is actually getting attacked and eaten. And we'll talk more about that later in the next video as well. And finally, there's some data that suggests that we have disordered sleeping patterns. We all know that we don't sleep well. We wake up several times throughout the night. The biggest thing about our sleep issue is we don't get the REM sleep or the REM sleep. That is the sleep that when you're in that deep state, your body restores and repairs all of the cells that had damage done to them during the day, and it resets everything in your body so that you wake up rested and restored, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go. So when we wake up, we feel unrested, we feel more fatigue, and it makes our fatigue worse throughout the day. We constantly feel tired, like we need to always be taking a nap here and there. So it seems like we sleep a lot, but it's because our body is missing that restore and reset. The sleep pattern problem did prove that it was the biggest predictor of new onset widespread pain in patients, cognitive disorders, and mood disorders. So that's the down and dirty of the recent research of what's actually relevant to us right now. I get my information from a website called uptodate.com, and all the research is on there. You can look up any part of fibromyalgia and kind of see how, they've been doing research and trying to get answers for us. There's been a lot of dead ends. There's a lot of research out there. There's a lot of misinformation and research that hasn't proved anything. And I just caution you, when you go to look at research or you look at articles out there that are coming out and saying, oh, they found this is a cure for fibromyalgia, or, this is the cause of your fibromyalgia. No, they have not still determined the cause, and these people are out there just trying to take advantage of us in our illness, trying to get us to buy their treatments or whatever it is that they're selling. So please don't fall for that. So that's it for this video. In our next video, we're going to talk about the nervous system and really go through the body and figure out what the heck is going on here. And then in my further videos, we're going to break down all the symptoms one at a time and go through them so that you can understand the treatment for that symptom and how to manage it better in your life. But before I go, I just want to leave a message with you and everybody else who doesn't have fibromyalgia, and just let you know that people with chronic pain are the strongest people on earth, because we have pain 24/7. It never goes away for us. We go to bed in pain, we wake up in pain, we do errands in pain, we take care of our families in pain, we go to work in pain, and not just the pain, but the fatigue and all of the other symptoms that we have to deal with. And it just makes living life really hard. And I just want you all to know that we try so hard every day to try to be normal people and have productive lives, but sometimes it's just really hard because of our illness. So just think about that for a minute. If you get pain from, an injury or a broken bone or some kind of accident, eventually it goes away for you. Ours never goes away. So I think you kind of get where I'm going with this. Just have a little more sympathy and a little more understanding. And as we go through these videos, you're going to get a better idea of what it is we're actually dealing with. We're so hypersensitive to our environments. So one way that friends and family and bosses and everybody can help us out is to understand this. We're sensitive to weather changes. We are sensitive to light. We are sensitive to sound, sensitive to smell, sensitive to taste. Pretty much all of these things in our environment can cause us to go into a flare. So if we're sitting in the office at work and the air conditioning's on and it's too cold and we start feeling chilled, we might have to put our coat on or wrap a blanket around us, just so that we don't go into a flare because that air conditioning is on right now. So you have to, just by understanding these things, you're going to understand why we do some of the things that we do and the way that we do it. We're just trying to protect ourselves from the outer environment so that we don't go into these flares, because they're awful when we do. So just remember that it takes all of the strength that we have just to get through our days and try to feel like we are a normal person like you. And it's not always easy. So please, if you enjoy these videos, if you're getting some education out of them, I want you all to share them. I want you to leave me comments and questions, even if you don't have fibromyalgia, but you have questions about a loved one who does and you're not understanding something. Leave your questions and comments, because I'm actually going to do videos to answer questions that come up from each of my videos, so that I can try to get answers for people and give you the information that you need so that you can have a happy, productive life with this illness. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to share, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss all the new exciting videos that are coming out. See you next time.